I married Jessica 5 years ago, and for most of that time, I thought we had something solid. We were not perfect, but we were a team. At least, that is what I believed. Then she started working at a new company 6 months ago, and everything changed. She became different, happier, but not because of me. That night at her company party, I watched my wife flirt with her coworker right in front of me, like I was not even there. When I confronted her, she looked me dead in the eye and said something that made my blood run cold. Before I tell you what happened next and how I handled it, let me know where you are watching from. Drop your city in the comments below. If you have ever felt invisible in your own relationship, hit that like button right now. And subscribe, because this story does not end the way you would expect. What I did that night changed everything. She thought I would crawl back, apologize, maybe even beg her to explain. But I did not. Instead, I walked out of that party, drove home alone, and made a phone call that would flip our entire marriage upside down. Here is what really happened. I met Jessica 7 years ago at a coffee shop in Portland. She was sitting by the window reading a book about architecture, and I accidentally knocked my laptop off the table right next to her. She looked up, smiled this bright, genuine smile, and helped me pick up my scattered papers. Her hair was long and brown, falling past her shoulders, and when she laughed, it felt warm. She told me she was passionate about interior design, dreamed of creating spaces that made people feel at home. I was working as a software engineer, already doing remote work before it became trendy. We talked for 2 hours that day, and I knew. I just knew. We dated for 2 years before I proposed. The wedding was small, just close friends and family, held in a garden venue outside the city. Our life together felt easy at first. We had our routines. Every Friday night, we cooked dinner together. She would chop vegetables while I handled the stove, and we would talk about our weeks, our dreams, the little things that mattered. Weekends meant movies on the couch, her head on my shoulder, or hiking trails on Sunday mornings, when the air was still cool and quiet. We were not wealthy, but we were comfortable. We talked about everything. Or at least I thought we did. I thought we had trust. I thought we were solid. I really did. Then, 6 months ago, everything shifted. Jessica got a job offer from a bigger design firm called Meridian Design Group. The pay was significantly better, the projects more high profile, and I was genuinely happy for her. I encouraged her to take it. I told her she deserved this opportunity. The first week she came home buzzing with excitement, telling me about the modern office space, the talented team, how inspired she felt. I loved seeing her that animated. But by the second week, a name started appearing in her stories. Kyle, her creative team leader, 35 years old. Very talented, she said. Very innovative. I did not think much of it at first. Of course, she would talk about her coworkers. But then things started changing in ways I could not ignore. Jessica began checking her phone constantly. She would smile at messages, sometimes laugh out loud, then quickly lock the screen when she noticed me watching. Our Friday night cooking tradition became less frequent. She would come home and say she was too exhausted, suggesting we just order takeout instead. She started dressing differently for work, more polished, more deliberate. Silk blouses, pencil skirts, makeup applied with more care than before. When I asked about her day, her answers became short. Fine. Busy. Nothing special. But her eyes told a different story. There was a light in them I had not seen in a while, and it hurt to realize that light was not for me. 3 months into her new job, Jessica started coming home late. Team brainstorming sessions, she explained. Kyle wanted the group to push creative boundaries, work through ideas together. I would cook dinner, keep it warm, wait. She would walk through the door at 9, sometimes 10, occasionally 11 at night. She would eat quickly, scroll through her phone, then tell me she was exhausted and head straight to bed. One specific night stands out. I heard her laughing in the bathroom. When I asked who was texting her so late, she jumped slightly, then said it was just Kyle sending a funny meme about their client. But the way she turned off her screen so fast, the way her cheeks flushed, it was the first time I truly felt something was off. Something was wrong. Weekends became another issue. Jessica started being busy on Saturdays and Sundays too. Kyle organized team lunches. Kyle invited people to design exhibitions downtown. When I suggested going with her, she smiled and said it was work stuff that I would be bored. I tried. I really tried to reconnect. I made reservations at her favorite restaurant, the Italian place, where we had our first anniversary dinner. She agreed to go, but during the entire meal, she checked her phone every few minutes. She barely looked at me. I felt like a stranger sitting across from my own wife. I felt invisible. And that feeling, that hollow ache in my chest, it started to grow. 2 weeks before the company party, Jessica mentioned it casually over breakfast. Meridian was hosting a holiday mixer on Friday night. Spouses were invited. I was surprised because she usually did not invite me to work events. I asked if she actually wanted me there, and she said yes. Why not? It would be fun. For a moment, I felt hopeful. Maybe this was a chance to reconnect, to meet her coworkers, to understand this new world she had entered. I bought a new dress shirt and dark slacks. I looked forward to it. Jessica wore a fitted black dress that night, her makeup flawless, a new perfume I did not recognize. She looked stunning. I told her so. She smiled, but it felt distant. I had no idea what I was about to walk into. The venue was a rooftop bar downtown, all exposed brick and string lights with a view of the city glittering below. Jazz music played softly in the background, and about 50 people mingled, holding cocktails and laughing. The atmosphere was relaxed, sophisticated. Jessica held my hand as we walked in, and I felt a small surge of relief. She introduced me to a few coworkers. Sarah, a friendly woman around 30 with short blonde hair, asked about my work. Marcus, the creative director, a serious man in his 50s with a salt and pepper beard, nodded politely. Everyone seemed nice enough. I started to relax. Maybe I had been overthinking everything. Maybe my anxiety had gotten the better of me. Then I saw him. Kyle walked across the room, and I knew instantly who he was. He stood around 6 feet 2 inches tall, with dark hair slicked back and a neatly trimmed beard along his jaw. He wore a charcoal gray suit, no tie, his white shirt unbuttoned at the collar. He moved with confidence, his voice carrying across the space as he greeted people. When he spotted Jessica, his entire face lit up. He walked over, tapped her shoulder, and said her name like they shared some private joke. "Jess. There you are." Jessica turned and her expression changed. It was not just a smile. It was brightness, energy, life. The kind of expression I had not seen directed at me in months. She introduced us. "Kyle, this is my husband, Barrett." Kyle extended his hand, gripping mine firmly, holding it just a fraction too long. "Barrett. Finally meet the man behind the mystery. Jess talks about you." His tone was friendly, but something about the way he stood so close to Jessica, the way his hand briefly touched the small of her back as he spoke, it made my stomach tighten. Jessica did not step away. She did not create distance. If anything, she leaned slightly toward him. I forced myself to stay calm, to not react. I told myself I was being paranoid, but the discomfort in my chest would not go away. Kyle and Jessica started talking, and I became background noise. He made a joke about a disastrous client meeting, and Jessica laughed, her hand playfully touching his forearm. "Kyle, you are terrible. But you totally saved that presentation." Her eyes sparkled. She looked at him, the way she used to look at me, back when things were good, back when I mattered. I stood there holding 2 drinks I had just gotten from the bar, watching my wife connect with another man, in a way that felt far too intimate. When I handed Jessica her glass, she barely acknowledged it. Kyle continued his story, and she was completely absorbed, like I was not even there. We joined a group conversation with Sarah and Marcus. Kyle kept making jokes, and Jessica kept laughing. At one point, He imitated a client's voice, exaggerating the accent, and Jessica nearly doubled over. "Oh my God, Kyle. You did not just do that." But he did, and they both cracked up, sharing this easy chemistry that felt wrong. I stood beside her, silent, feeling like an outsider at my own wife's event. Then it happened. Kyle reached over and gently brushed a strand of hair off Jessica's shoulder. "You had something there?" he said, his voice low, almost intimate. Jessica did not pull away. She smiled. "Thanks." That single moment, that casual touch, it felt like a knife. My face grew hot. My heart pounded. I could not take it anymore. I pulled Jessica aside toward a quieter corner near the railing. She looked annoyed. "What is wrong?" I kept my voice as steady as I could. "What is going on with you and Kyle?" She frowned. "What do you mean?" I took a breath. "You have been flirting with him all night. In front of me." Jessica sighed, shook her head like I was being ridiculous. "Barrett, we are just friends, co-workers." I pushed back. "Friends do not touch each other like that. You barely even look at me anymore." Her face hardened. "You are being ridiculous." I felt my frustration rising. "Am I? Because from where I am standing, it looks like you are way too close to him." That is when she said it. Jessica looked me straight in the eyes, her voice cold and sharp. "If you are that insecure, Barrett, maybe you should just leave." The words hit me like a slap. Silence stretched between us. I stared at her, waiting for an apology, an explanation, something. But there was nothing. No remorse. No softness. Just blame. She turned and walked back toward Kyle, who was waiting near the bar. I watched as he placed his hand on her lower back, leaned in, whispered something. She laughed. And in that moment, I realized something with absolute clarity. She had already made her choice. She told me to leave. So I did. I walked out of that rooftop bar without another word. The elevator ride down felt surreal, my hands shaking as I pressed the button for the ground floor. I drove home in silence, my mind racing, but also strangely clear. By the time I pulled into our driveway, it was 10 at night. I sat in the car for a few minutes, staring at the house we had bought together 3 years ago, the life we had built. It felt like looking at something that belonged to someone else now. I went inside, poured myself a glass of whiskey, and sat on the couch. On the shelf across from me was our wedding photo. We looked so happy. But the woman in that picture was not the woman I had just left at that party. I was not angry. I was not interested in revenge or destruction. I was just done. I could not stay in a marriage where I felt invisible, where my feelings were dismissed, where I was blamed for noticing what was right in front of me. I could not keep pretending everything was fine. It was not fine. It had not been fine for months. I looked at the clock. 10:30. I picked up my phone and made a call. David Brennan answered on the third ring, his voice groggy with sleep. "Barrett." "What is going on?" David was my college roommate, now a family law attorney. I had not spoken to him in months, but I knew exactly why I was calling him now. "Dave, I need your help. I want to file for divorce." There was silence on the other end. Then carefully, he asked what happened. I gave him the short version. The new job. Kyle. Tonight. The way she told me to leave. David sighed. "Listen, you are emotional right now. Sleep on it. We can talk Monday." But I was not emotional. I was clear. Clearer than I had been in a long time. "No, I am not emotional. I am certain. I want to file as soon as possible." David paused, then shifted into professional mode. He asked about assets. The house was in both our names. We had 2 cars, a shared savings account. I told him I did not care about the house. She could have it. I just wanted out. He told me not to make financial decisions in the middle of the night, but if I was serious, I should come to his office Monday morning with all our documents. "I will be there at 8, I said. After hanging up, I went upstairs to our bedroom. I opened the closet and pulled out a large duffel bag. I started packing: clothes, laptop, personal documents. I did not take much, just what I needed. It felt strange how calm I was, how steady my hands were as I zipped the bag. There was no chaos, no breakdown, just clarity. I grabbed my keys, took one last look at the bedroom and walked out. Before leaving, I sent Jessica a single text. I left. Do not wait up. I did not call. I did not explain further. I just left. The next morning, I checked into an extended stay hotel near downtown. The room was small but clean, with a kitchenette and a view of the parking lot. It was not home, but it was mine. Jessica called 12 times that morning. I did not answer. She sent a flood of texts. Where are you, Barrett? This is childish. We need to talk. You are overreacting. I did not respond to any of them. Sunday afternoon, I met David at his office. We sat for 2 hours, going through finances. He explained that I was entitled to half the equity in the house, roughly $150,000. I told him whatever moved things faster was fine. He said he would draft the papers and file by Wednesday. Monday morning, Jessica showed up at the hotel. I am still not sure how she found me, but I had expected she would. She was waiting in the lobby when I came down, her eyes red and swollen. Can we please talk? I agreed to meet her in the small cafe attached to the lobby. We sat across from each other, and for the first time in months, she looked genuinely upset. I am sorry, she began. I did not mean what I said that night. I leaned back in my chair. Which part? Telling me to leave? Or flirting with Kyle for months? She flinched. It was not like that. We are just friends. I got caught up in the attention. It did not mean anything. I shook my head. It meant something to me. You made me feel invisible. In my own marriage. She started crying. So you are just giving up? After 5 years, I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt nothing but sadness. I am not giving up. I am choosing myself. You already chose Kyle, whether you admit it or not. She reached across the table. I love you. Maybe you do, I said quietly. But not enough. I stood up. My lawyer will contact yours. Sign the papers, Jessica. It is over. She called my name as I walked away, but I did not turn around. There was nothing left to say. 2 weeks later, the divorce papers were filed. Jessica signed without contesting anything. The process moved quickly. Through mutual friends, I heard rumors circulating at her company. And then, I learned something that almost made me laugh. Kyle was married. He had been married for 12 years. David, who had a contact at Meridian, mentioned that Kyle had a reputation. He flirted with new hires, enjoyed the attention, but never actually left his wife. It was a pattern. Jessica was not special. She was just another woman in a long line of people Kyle charmed for his own ego. After the divorce became public knowledge, Kyle distanced himself from Jessica. He was suddenly too busy for lunch. When she asked him about it, he told her they should keep things professional. She realized far too late that she had thrown away her marriage for someone who never intended to give her anything real. Jessica called me one last time, her voice broken. You were right. About everything. I felt no satisfaction hearing that. No sense of victory. I just felt tired. I hope you find what you are looking for, Jessica. But it will not be with me. And I hung up. The best thing I did was not to hurt her back. It was to respect myself enough to walk away. The first 3 months after the divorce were hard. I moved to Seattle to stay with my younger brother Ethan, who worked as a game designer and had a spare room. Those early weeks were rough. I did not sleep well. I kept replaying moments, questioning if I had overreacted, wondering if I should have tried harder. The memories of the good times with Jessica would hit me at random moments, and I would feel the loss all over again. But Ethan was there, never judging, just present. You did what you had to do, man, he would say. And slowly, I started to believe him. I began running every morning along the lake. The sunrise over the water, the cool air filling my lungs, it helped clear my head. I joined a rock climbing gym and met a group of people who became friends. I took on extra freelance projects, poured myself into work. And I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Karen Hughes, a woman in her early 50s, who helped me understand that loving myself was not selfish. It was necessary. She helped me see that I had done nothing wrong by choosing to leave a situation where I was not valued. Slowly, piece by piece, I started feeling like myself again. 6 months after the divorce, I rented my own studio apartment. It was small, just one room with a kitchenette, but it had a view of the mountains and plenty of natural light. I decorated it the way I wanted. Minimalist furniture, plants everywhere, a comfortable workspace by the window. For the first time in a long time, I felt at peace in my own space. I was not rushing into dating. I was not looking to fill a void. I was just learning to be okay on my own. Through the hiking group, I met a woman named Amy, an architect around 30. We were not dating, just friends, but one day after a hike, she said something that stuck with me. "You deserve someone who sees you bear it." And I realized she was right. I did not need Jessica to be whole. I had always been whole. The lessons I learned from that experience changed me. I learned that loving someone does not mean accepting being treated poorly. No one is worth feeling invisible for. Walking away is not weakness. It is strength. It takes courage to choose yourself when everything in you wants to hold on to what is familiar, even when it is hurting you. I also learned that marriage is not about holding on tight out of fear. It is about two people choosing each other every single day. When one person stops choosing, you cannot force it. You cannot beg someone to see your worth. They either do or they do not. I forgave Jessica eventually, not because she deserved it, but because I deserved peace. Forgiveness did not mean going back. It did not mean forgetting. It just meant letting go of the anger, the resentment, the weight I had been carrying. I forgave her, so I could move forward, so I could build a life that was not defined by what she took from me. And I learned that the right kind of fight is not always about holding on. Sometimes it is about knowing when to let go. I did not need to destroy her to win. I just needed to choose myself. And that, I realized, was the real power. Now I sit on the balcony of my apartment, watching the Seattle sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. I have a cup of coffee in my hand, and for the first time in over a year, I feel light. There is no weight on my chest, no lingering bitterness, just quiet contentment. I look back at the journey from that night at the rooftop bar to now, and I do not regret a single decision I made. Maybe the best thing Jessica ever did for me was tell me to leave. Because she gave me a reason, a clear, undeniable reason to finally choose myself. I heard through friends that Jessica still works at Meridian. Kyle is still married. She seems okay, I guess, but she lost something she did not realize she had. I do not feel happy about that, but I do not feel sad either. I just hope she learned something from it the way I did. Because sometimes the person who hurts you gives you exactly what you need. A reason to walk away. I walked away that night, and I have never looked back. Because the life I am building now, it is mine. Finally, truly mine. So let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a relationship where you felt invisible, where your concerns were dismissed, and you were made to feel like the problem? Drop a comment below and share your story. You are not alone. And if this resonated with you, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel, because I share more real stories like this one. Share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Someone who needs permission to choose themselves. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps you in some way. Remember, you deserve to be seen. You deserve to be valued. And you deserve a love that chooses you back. Take care of yourself. You are worth it.